Hi, at last. Good afternoon, and welcome to the Jon Gaunt broadcast. Technical issues, first time ever, actually. I do apologise for that, but I'm here now. Let's get talking. There is loads and loads to talk about. And the big question is this, though. It's very simple. Well, it's a simple question, maybe a difficult answer. Why can't we secure the UK from terror attacks? With all the recent tragedies, including the terrorist murder of MP David Amess 2 or 3 years ago, why is the government failing, all governments, to take adequate action? The Home Secretary this morning, Yvette Cooper, she's useless. She's about as much use as a chocolate fire guard. She's as useless as Prevent, who are meant to prevent terrorism. We need to change their organisation name to Stop, not just Prevent. We need them to stop it. He's refused to order a public inquiry. I don't know if you saw David Amess's daughter on the telly earlier. It was terribly, terribly sad. And you've got to ask the question, why don't they want a public inquiry where people have got to answer on oath? I'll tell you why. There's a cover-up going on because Prevent are flipping useless. They are not protecting us at all. They're too busy with their philosophy of their rainbow laces. They want to understand these terrorists rather than condemn, rather than convict, and rather than what I'd like to do, which is execute them. We need a massive deterrent now. Do you agree with me or not? Is there a cover-up surrounding the failures of the anti-terror organisation Prevent? Let's have your opinion. You can write up your comments on the side. If you're listening later, feel free to put your comments up at a later date. Don't forget, we now do it as a live TV show here on YouTube, Twitter, and indeed on Facebook. But you can also then watch it on repeat on all those channels or just listen to the audio podcast. I don't care where you get it from, when you get it from. I just think we've got to talk about these vital questions that nobody else seems to want to either ask or get answers to. How could Yvette Cooper today, she is useless, isn't she? How can she today turn down a public inquiry? Well, I'll tell you how she can do it, because she does not want questions about Prevent. Don't forget, it was Prevent who also gave the green light, effectively, for Axel Rudakubana to attack those girls. He was reported to them on at least 3 occasions. He was found with a knife. He went to his old school. He was going to attack there. Why did Prevent not take him off the street? He slaughtered 3 little girls in Southport at a Taylor Swift themed dance class. And it's not the first time they've messed up. So my question today is, how many more innocent lives must be lost before our government, and again, this is not party political, the Tories were just as bad, before the government of the United Kingdom take real action to protect us, the public? You can't go to a Christmas market now because of the concrete bollards. We can't go about our normal life. You can't just go to the football on a whim. You can't go on a plane. Do you remember when flying was a real good laugh, a real good thing to do? Now it takes forever. It puts you off, doesn't it? Well, I've had enough of terrorism. Of course, there's always going to be terrorism, but we need an organisation that is on top of the intelligence and is locking people away. Axel, up in Southport, should never have been on the streets. Prevent have got blood on their hands. Oh, well, we're having an inquiry up there, aren't we, Yvette? But are we having an inquiry into why you, Ms. Cooper, and Sir Keir Starmer didn't tell people straight away there was terrorist intent and that he was known to Prevent? No, you let the riots happen and people went to prison. Some deserve to go to prison, I accept that, but some people were sent to prison for the best part of 3 years for hurty words. How's that fair? How's that reasonable? How is that a democracy? Neil Kelly says, "Hi, John. Used to speak to you loads back in the day and listen daily on BBC London. About 2009, I guess. Well, you're here now in the modern world. So ask a question. or make a comment now, because I want to talk about Prevent. So are Prevent and indeed the Home Secretary, Yvette Cooper, truly fit for purpose when it comes to combating terrorism? We're an island. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about the people who are getting here in boats. 150 yesterday. When those people land, what we do at the moment is we take their life jackets off them, because we're going to need to use them next time we pick up the next day to pick up the next hour to pick up a load more people, and we give them warm clothes. They're met with care and compassion, which in a way they should be. But shouldn't we maybe now, is it now not the time to have the army there or the navy? Should we not give them a hot meal, redress them if they want it, quickly look at them, make sure they're healthy enough, and then put them back on a boat and take them back to France? We've got to stop what's happening. We're being told, and I'm not suggesting that everybody who comes across the channel is a terrorist. Of course I'm not. But can you tell me, because I can't tell you, how many of them are potential terrorists? How many do want to commit terrible crimes here, whether it's raping people or whether it's blowing people up or driving cars into queues in shopping centres? They're fundamentally, some of these people have changed our whole way of life. And I, for one, am fed up of it. Look, they're coming in, so you stop them, you check them, you decide whether they are safe people to come in. And if you think I'm being a racist or a fascist, what about the chap? I don't think we can mention his name because I think he's probably been charged. There was a chap today, this weekend, who got in. He's got all over social media saying death to all Jews. He came across on a boat, allegedly, a week or so ago. I didn't know he was here. You didn't know he was here. And do you know what's even worse? Nor did Prevent. Until the newspapers, and I'll give them their due, mentioned he was here, then the police have gone and arrested this man, who they think this guy is. But what a ridiculous system. We are an island. There's a channel of water over 20 miles wide at its narrowest, where we should be able to stop people. Why? And it's not just us, it's the rest of Europe. This is a Europe-wide problem. We are all living in fear of our lives. We're all being polite. We're always not being non-racist. We are curtailing our social activities for a minority of Islamists, and that's what they are, fanatics. Not all people who are in those boats, and certainly not all Muslims. But we've got to get tough now, haven't we? So that's why the murder of Sir David Amess, some people might say, well, he's a politician. Why are you getting so worked up about him? Well, because if the self-serving pigs of Westminster can't even look after their own security, and there's been 2 or 3 incidents now, there has, including the right-wing nutter, Thomas Mayer, who killed the woman up north. Yeah, you know who I'm talking about. So if they're not looking after their own, they're certainly not going to look after you and me or your daughters at a dance class. Why are these people so worried the moment they realize it's potentially a so-called or self-identifying Muslim, they will not release the name? That's what happened in Southport. He wasn't even a bloody Muslim. Why didn't they just say, this is who he is, this is our suspect, and we're now investigating it? Will you please back off? Yeah? They don't. Likewise, do you know, none of these people who are coming in and then staying in 4-star hotels, none of them are being given medicals. None of them. In fact, anybody who comes to our country, you try and go to Australia and not have a medical, you won't get in. Or America. Why are we doing this? Why are we planting the seeds of our own destruction? And again, I caution you, I'm not saying every person who's trying to get into our great country, I'm not saying every one of them is a terrorist. Many of them will come here and work bloody hard like immigrants always have done. And I'm all in favour of well-controlled, managed immigration. Of course I am. But why are we letting these people come across the channel in the back of a lorry? I mean, today there's been a couple, they've got a camper van. Somebody clung onto the back of their camper van. They didn't even know the person was there. They've just been fined £1,500. It's their fault, evidently, for having the temerity to have a camper van. The world has gone mad. And what about the immigrants who want to come here and have a right to come here and want to settle here and want to contribute? Why should they be at the back of the queue? Because they won't break the law. Because whether you like it or not, you uber liberals, everybody who lands in our territory, on our ground, on our island of the United Kingdom, without permission, they're a criminal. They've broken the law. They've not gone through the right channels. We know that needs fixing, but that's what's happening. And then there's no health checks. There's no security checks, as far as I can see, because we've just let a man in who basically goes on, doesn't hide his face or anything, goes on social media and says, let's kill all the Jews. Then we get some other Burke climbing up Big Ben. What is going on in our country? Why aren't we saying we are not called Prevent anymore? We're called Stop the Terrorist Bastards. Why not? Why aren't we getting really, really tough? We're an island race. Do you agree with me or disagree with me? I'd love to have your views. And so she doesn't order a public inquiry today into David Amess, who, don't forget, basically got hacked to death in his constituency surgery 3 years ago. They've got no closure, that family. And she says, I don't think, in fact, I've got the piece here from the BBC, so I wanted to read it to you because I thought it was quite interesting what they said about this. Just hold on a minute and I'll find it for you. Well, where did I put it on the screen? There it is. I don't see an app. Oh, shut up, you idiot. That's my phone now talking to me. I do apologise. The Home Secretary rejected calls for the family of the MP Sir David Amess for a public inquiry into his murder. In a letter addressed to Lady Julia Amess and Katie, that's the girl who was crying today on the telly, Yvette Cooper said it was hard to see how an inquiry would be able to go beyond killer Ali Harbi. I don't see enough. Ali Harbi's Ali Harbi's trial and recently published Prevent Learning Review. Katie, the daughter, said Cooper's words were adding salt onto an open wound, branding them unacceptable and insulting. She's absolutely right. Now, Sir David, if you don't remember, he was the Conservative MP for Southend West. He was stabbed to death by Ali, a fanatic of the so-called Islamic State, says the BBC, on the 15th of October, 2021. Can anyone explain to me why there can't be a public inquiry? There's clearly been a failure. Why didn't they identify this man? Why didn't they say, Sir David, this man's in your constituency. If he says he wants to come and see you, don't see him. You're called Prevent. It's a bit like the fire service. They don't hardly go to fires nowadays, do they? Because they've shown us how to prevent things. Cars don't get nicked in the same way anymore because we can prevent it with security. But the government have got an organisation that's not fit for purpose, and it's called itself Prevent, and it's about as much use as a chocolate fire guard. Let's take some of your comments. Hi, John. I'm sure Prevent would act quickly if someone was reported to them with a far right-leaning philosophy. Well, you might be right, my friend. I don't know. Look at Mayor, who killed Joe Cox. Not necessarily the case. Denise Deacon, we're just too tolerant for our own good use, for our own good in this country. The government needs to put us first for a change. I'm just sick of it. Well, so am I. I'm absolutely sickened. I was sitting there this morning thinking, what shall we talk about today? And I've seen the agenda of all the other talk show hosts, and it's boring. What's important is to talk about the news as it happens. And the biggest story in town today is David Amess. But then to have enough general knowledge to know this has been going on for ages and to, what's it called? And do draw the dots, draw the lines between the dots. Those people getting off life rafts today, tomorrow, last week, we don't know who they are. That's clearly unsustainable and now has to stop. A man who wants to kill every Jew in the world has been let into our great country. It's not an allegation. He's on social media saying it. Do you follow where I'm coming from? We have those Palestinian marches, which are stuffed full as well of Hamas supporters. And then everybody gets upset and starts calling Trump the orange baby or whatever they're calling him. But at least he's trying to do something. What's our government doing to protect you? Oh, we've got prevent. Oh yeah, what's that then? Well, they're going to prevent trouble, are they? Well, why didn't they do it with Axel in Southport? Or there's been a load of these cases where they say lessons will be learned. And it won't. They won't. They won't. And if they're even killing our MPs, and it hasn't. I remember when Westminster Bridge, when the bridge attack happened at the Commons, I thought, oh, well, on one level, the upside is it's a horrendous event. But the upside of that is, well, at least now they'll take it seriously. No, they don't. They live in this fantasy land where everybody's a nice person. Whereas we, the proletariat, the plebs, we know not everybody's a nice person, right? And some people want to harm us. And some people don't want to change their way they live. They want to come here and bring some of their third world culture with them. Now, as I've said before, their religion and the rest of it, I can put up with that. I'm not going to lose sleep over that. But I do draw a line when they think the law doesn't react to them. And then we've got a police force and a social services and the NHS. How many translators do you need? Do you see what I'm getting at here? This is no good either to the people who are legitimate refugees who are seeking sanctuary or legitimately want to come and contribute and be part of our great nation as immigrants have been for many years, centuries even, you can say. That's what we want, isn't it? So many people telling me they don't feel safe here anymore. It's a very sad situation, says Phil. You're right, Phil, on YouTube. STERWA, WBA, West Bromwich Albion, I guess that means, on Twitter. Keep your comments coming. I'm coming to you. We're warmed up now. I really apologise about the start of the show. But, hey, I'm a one-man band. I can't help it. Sometimes things go wrong. Done a lot of disagreeing with you of late, John, on other topics. But on the prevent topic, I'm with you. It's a calamity and needs a wholesale rethink. Top down, shake the bones out of it and rebuild something that is tough, fair, and protects our children. Well, you see, I don't mind you disagreeing with me. In fact, if you agreed with me all the time, it'd be like one of those tedious radio phone-ins, wasn't it? I don't want to do that. And I don't care whether you hate some of my opinions, because I only ever say what I think. And if you don't like that kind of radio, whatever this is called, podcasting, then go away, go somewhere else. There's plenty of bland, boring crap all over the internet now. But I'm going to only ever say what I think. And when you say it needs reform, it needs to shake the bones out of it. No, we need a completely new organisation. We need one run by people like that guy who's often on the telly, the ex-copper, and Norman Brennan, people like that. We need some hard cases in there who have seen it, who have been through the mill, ex-police officers, I would suggest, or even army officers. And we need to address it. We can't just let this carry on. Letting in a man who we didn't even know, or the authorities didn't know, was an out-and-out Jew hater, right? Not just an anti-Semite, a Jew hater. I want to kill all Jews, is what he's been saying on videos. We don't want somebody like that. Just like we wouldn't want somebody who said, I want to kill all Muslims, or Hindus, or Sikhs, or Christians. Would we? We're a tolerant, civilized society. But our uber-liberal buffoons who run the police, who run the government, the civil service, that's what they're like. They're just, oh, everyone's lovely. Let's put some rainbow laces in. Let's sing Kumbaya. And if there's another terrorist attack like Manchester where they say, let's not look back in anger, I think I'm going to punch somebody right in the face. Probably a government. No, I'm just, you know where I'm coming from. I don't want to be told not to look back in anger. Do you know why? Because I'm angry. Because our great country is being wrecked, not just by the terrorists who want to get in here, but the very people who are meant to protect us. I'm saying it again. I'm calling it now. I want to see if anybody's going to agree with me. Yvette Cooper must be sacked. She's an absolute disgrace. She's the woman, along with Sir Keir Starmer, who didn't stop the riots when they could have done. Not just me saying it. Their own anti-terror czar says it. He says, if anything, they may have promoted more trouble. I've been saying that for months. Tell people the truth. Tell us. And when there's been an attack, don't do this thing about we're looking for a man, he's 35 and he's 6'2", and not mention that he's got a bushy beard or a moustache or he's of Arabian experience or he shouted Ali snack bar. Why wouldn't you mention that? That doesn't mean everyone's going to go out and start attacking loads of Muslims. There's no evidence of that happening on a massive scale, even after 9/7 and 11/11, right? There isn't. Why do they treat us, me, you, as the terrorists, scum, and not the decent people who are paying our taxes? Well, sometimes paying our taxes and contributing to this country. I want to know what you think. Let's take some more people. Tony Hodgkinson on YouTube. I want to know when people are going to realize it's all by design. Planned demolition of the West. Yeah, I've read a lot about this. Do you think that's true, Tony? I was just saying that, but I can see where you're coming from. I've told my daughter on Facebook not to let my grandchildren go to any event that doesn't have locked doors. That's what it's come to in this country, says Denise. Facebook, Lily Cat, Alderbury. 1 in 5 kids are frightened to walk home on their own in case they get stabbed. I can believe that. But then there's some of our settled community. Kids are carrying knives now like a matter of course. It's a terrible situation we got ourselves into. Bonnie Carrington, import third world savages. See, this is where you got to be a bit careful, Bonnie. You're getting carried away. And this is what we're seeing. Towns and cities across the UK. We need to round them up and ship them back to where they came from. Yeah, but Bonnie, not everybody who's come in is, how did you describe them? A third world savage. They're not. So be careful with your language. Because although we should condemn, we have to be sensible about this. We have to be really sensible and even sensitive. But I do agree we should be sending people back if they've got no right to be here. Where are we going? Learn the language, socialise with local people, don't isolate yourself, try the foods and explore the culture. It's not always easy, but it's the only way you're ever going to integrate into a new country. Pip, I agree with you totally. That's on YouTube. We should tell that to the expats who've gone to Spain as well. But I know where you're coming from. When we have quangos deciding that straight white men will get harsher sentences than minorities, it's not a quang, but I suppose it is a quango, it's a sentencing council. You understand why the government aren't protecting us. They can't abide us. I've got a lot of sympathy with that view. Got to say, though, the government immediately stopped that, didn't they? That was 2 or 3 days ago. But it's because of the culture we've created, you're right, that now we've got this thing where people are second guessing and trying to be more liberal than thou. When Westminster was attacked, they put prevention measures in place by concrete blocks, so no vehicles could get near. We're expendable. This government thinks they're better than us. Well, Ronnie, again, I'd be careful because I don't think it's just this government, because that was the previous government who did that, obviously. It's the political class. And also, they put concrete barriers in town centres, haven't they now? And Christmas markets and stuff. I think it's terrible. I don't want to live like that. You've got to stop the cancer at source. There's not one member of Starmer's front bench that doesn't need sacking, says Body Carrington. Body's off on one now, but I agree with this. Time for the people to stand up and bring this dictatorship government down. Well, yes, Bonnie, but who are we going to get then? You've now got Rishi Sunak saying, I shouldn't have said I was going to stop the boats. He's not saying, I cocked up and I wasn't very good at my job, da-da-da-da-da. So let's not depict this as a Conservative versus Labour thing. It's the whole class. And unfortunately now I'm going to upset some people because it looks like Reform are going the same way. This stupid row they're having, Nigel Farage, my dad's got a bigger than you, and Rupert Lowe, I don't even know what the truth of it is. I just think it's pathetic. These 5 MPs they've got, 4 now, were meant to be fighting for a new form of politics. And they've just turned into the same as the rest of the self-serving pigs. Sort out your problems. And remember, your first task is to serve us, not yourselves. Otherwise, you become part of that. That's why some people say to me, well, would you not want to be an MP, Gaunty? Well, on lots of levels, no, because I can see myself slipping into it. Very easy. Very easy. Oh, we're going now, aren't we? By the way, if you like the show and you'd like to help me, feel free. buymeacoffee.com/Jon Gaunt. Loads of people bought coffees over the weekend for me. Brilliant of you. And also on my YouTube channel, which is Jon Gaunt TV, you can become a member of that, a fan. It's 99p. That's as cheap as chips, isn't it? Or you can become a super fan for $2.99. Why don't you have a look at that and see whether you fancy doing it? All helps. It's getting so bad, says Chopper, that they should relax the laws a bit on how you can protect yourself and your family. I know where you're coming from, but dangerous. Even in Europe, you can buy a can of mace. Here all we get is a tin of face paint. Well, Chopper, I'm not having a go at you, but I can see how people are going to begin to tool themselves up. But again, it's not really the answer, is it? The answer is to control who's getting in the country, or at least know who's in the country. There's over 1 million people we don't even know about in the country. How, when you get your Deliveroo and your Uber delivery, food, do you think those people are all legit? No, I'm sure some of them are, but I bet the vast majority aren't. This is what we've got to change. And there's unscrupulous people who live in our country and lived here for years who are exploiting these people to do that. Just like it would never surprise me if we found out some of these gangs who are getting the people into the country are established criminal gangs from Britain as well. As people saying, oh, it's the Turks, it's the Germans. Do you understand what I'm getting at? But we need a Home Secretary who says, right, we are not tolerating this anymore. And why aren't we putting them in army camps? I just don't understand it. There's so much army housing there, which we're not giving to our people anyway, our squad is. Put them in there. And if they're not very nice, they're not very nice. Tough shit. It'd be nicer than the tent you had in Calais. It's just ludicrous. Bonnie, I'm not going to read that out because you're just now going on and on about savages. I'm not going to read it out because you're doing yourself a disservice. Because not everybody who wants to get here is a savage. The vast majority of people want to just better their lives. But even so, I'm saying we've got to be harsh. Pip says, I live in Spain myself and had to make a real effort to not live in an English bubble. It's too easy to be lazy and not integrate. Successive governments have failed to tackle immigration. Where is it? Sorry. Whether legal or irregular, as they now call it. Yeah, it's not illegal anymore. Not allowed to say the word illegal. Could it be that the UK is fully committed to the UN Global Compact for Migration? Yeah, again, I know I've heard all this, David. I'm with you. I would hope not, but I understand where you're coming from. Peter Stewart, I think there'll be another party soon. Another party? Well, on top of reform. That's not going to help, is it? It's people like you with common sense. You and Jeremy Clarkson. Oh, God. Perhaps America would loan us Trump for a few months. Yeah, he'd sort things out. Bonnie Carrington says, if you can't speak English, then no entry. See, no, again, Bonnie, you're being too harsh. And you're living up to a stereotype where the uber liberal left want you to be. I can understand fully why somebody might come who can't speak the language very well or not at all. But as long as they go to lessons and they learn within a set period of time, couple of years, what's wrong with that? Are we going to turn away some brilliant guys and girls from India who haven't got perfect English? No. Well, in fact, he's from India. They probably would have. But you understand where I'm coming from. So let's us keep our heads on this as well, if we can. If you can't get into Switzerland without specific skills, why is the UK operating basically an open border? Well, because we haven't got a border. That's why. And see, some of the EU Romaniacs, they quite like that. Don't forget, they're the ones who effed up Brexit. We haven't got Brexit. We can't control who comes here because of the European Court. So we haven't got independence. We're not a sovereign state. But we should be able to be a sovereign state. That's what Brexit was about. And we should say we want the brightest and the best. We need some low-skilled labour as well. You can come in. Oh, you're a relative. You can come in. That's what we should be doing. because I'm telling you, we can't operate without immigrants. That's a fact. We're not having enough kids, the settled population. So you're going to need it moving forward. But it has to be well controlled and managed. But I think the more suspicious here is that the political elite and the mainstream media, they want to not really do much because it's like having the bogeyman, isn't it? They can blame everything. No matter what they were talking about Windermere today, and there's been a load of sewage being pumped into it. Disgraceful. And of course, if the Conservatives were in power the last 14 years, they haven't done enough. I'm all for that. However, it was the first thing that Steve Reed said. He was straight into, well, we're taking on 14 years. And like, oh, shut up. And then I shouted out black hole. And then he says, then there's a £22 billion black hole we inherited. Okay. Can you just draw a little map of what this 22 billion black hole was? Because I'm fed up with the Ben Elton Act. You know, when Ben Elton used to come on and everything was Mrs. Thatcher's fault, even though she'd been dead or certainly out of her office for years. It's just pathetic. We've got to grow up and get a grip. Jason Floor, they're all rats. See, this is where we get idiots. They're all rats. The only agenda they have is to overrun this country and make it just as bad as where they come from. Well, Jason, if you could spell, some of what you've there said might make sense, but you can't. And you're just proving just what a moron you are. I mean, that's just nonsense. What, they're rats. How can you talk about people? They're rats. Give over. They're just people who want to improve themselves. But we've got to stop them. That's the difference. Yes, Rupert Lowe set up a new party and he'll get his money from Elon Musk. I'll tell you one thing I do think is disgusting, Peter, is the way that they're sort of alleging he's got dementia. Because, you know, that's a terrible... I'm dealing with that, not me personally, but I've got family members. And I think if Nigel and... what's his name? Are using that, what's his name? Tice, against Rupert. That's wrong. I don't agree with it. I think it's disgusting. But anyway, but I'm not taking sides in their argument. I don't understand their argument personally. Although I do remember when I was doing quite a bit of, let's get out of Europe work, and I used to meet Nigel a lot, but we set up a big lunch because the idea was there was all these different anti-EU groups, and it was a bit like that Monty Python sketch, in The Life of Brian, the People's Committee for Judea, whoever it is, and it was like such petty arguments that made no real sense to anybody who wasn't deeply involved in the EU Brexit project, and they just couldn't come together. In fact, Farage said that's the problem with UKIP. It was like cats fighting in a sack, and I think that's what's happening again. Because a lot of these people have strong independent views. That's why they're in a Reform or the Brexit Party before that or UKIP. But sometimes you've got to put it to one side, haven't you? My girlfriend is from Argentina and works as a doctor. She's been offered a job in the UK with the NHS, but I'm not sure I want to move back myself. I wouldn't come back. Spanish medical system is brilliant, my friend. I would stay there. I'm sorry, John. The intelligent people from foreign lands speak English, like doctors. Learn English first, then apply for citizenship. For one, I do not want my taxes to pay for lessons. Well, again, I think that's short-sighted. I don't see any problem if we can get these people then to be part of the workforce and they've got great skills. Just don't forget, you can do maths and you can do nuclear physics and not speak English. I mean, that's a bit like the old days. When Coventry would have collapsed, the medical thing, when the Pakistani doctors first came over when I was a kid in the 60s. And it is true, you sometimes couldn't understand them or you had to ask them to repeat it. Now they all speak perfect English. But the point is, they were qualified as doctors. If we haven't got our own, we've got to do something about it. And now I sound like a Labour politician. They're 14 years of neglect. I mean, they did run the NHS into the ground. Anyway, I leave my flat open, and in Zurich, there are no issues. A recent trip back to London and my bike was stolen from the station with no deterrent and respect. You're absolutely right, Tom. I know where you're coming from. Oh, Jason Floor's really now trying to ingratiate himself with me. He says, F off, mate. Improve themselves. My bumhole. You must be looking through rose-tinted glasses. No, Jason, I'm just not looking through the glasses of a moronic racist turd like you, because I'm trying to say, look, this is the story. If you don't like my style, Jace, bye. I don't need you, because I'm not trying to talk to racists. I want to talk to the decent people of this country. We know what's right. We know what's fair. That's all. Rupert is nuts. You can't call for mass deportation. I think you're probably right there, Gavin. Bonnie now, because I've dared to pick her up on her racism, says, John's going soft. Oh, yeah, really. Jason Four, that's the man, the moron. He's a bellend. That's always their best insult. You think the rubber boat people are our future doctors? You're deluded. I think you mean you are deluded. So then you would write it as YOU_RE, mate. But never mind. You obviously didn't finish school. So some immigrant probably took your school place. Is that what it was? Is that your excuse? See, Jason, it doesn't help you being stupid. It just doesn't help you being like this. You need to educate yourself. And actually, some of those people will be doctors or could be high-level trained people. It's happened before. I know people of an Oriental distraction who came here who were. I know one person who was a nuclear scientist, but when they first came here, they worked in their uncle's Chinese restaurant. What's wrong with that? I just think you're nonsense. Right, okay, that's the end of you. It's Facebook, you fat tosser. Oh, no, you fat FK. You have 6 viewers, you tosser. Oh, I bet you felt great doing that, didn't you? Did you feel really great? Bye. Yeah. Facebook's just one of the avenues we're doing it on. He's not giving up. He now says, racist, I haven't said nout in that manner, but yeah, you are a fat FK. Oh, right, yeah. Okay. And I bet you're lovely. I bet you're a lovely guy. I bet you got women queuing up to go out with you. You're such an intelligent guy. The reform branch in Stafford has been closed down. There's problems there, says Peter. Yeah, I read about that. If people don't like your discussions, they can always join another chat, says Ronnie Hurst. Yeah, exactly, Ronnie. I'm just not going to be a haven for racists. I'm not a racist myself at all. I think you can say there's a major problem with the amount of people who are coming into the country, but you don't have to be racist about it. We need to sort it out. And obviously, we cannot have people coming in who self-identify as Jew haters, right? And they want to kill all Jews. That's wrong. That doesn't make any of us safe. And this is where I say Prevent, the organisation, is not fit for purpose. And nor is Yvette Cooper. Yvette Cooper needs sacking. Absolutely sacking immediately. Neither of the organisation, Prevent, or the Home Secretary are fit for purpose because they're not combating terrorism. We're an island nation. Securing our borders should be the top priority, and it should be pretty easy. But the question remains, how much more terror are we, the British public, meant to take or have to endure before our politicians do something about it? I want counter-terrorism strategies that are tough. I want somebody, when they're identified to prevent, like Axel up there in Southport, I want him to be locked up and the key thrown away before he kills innocent little girls. And when he does kill innocent little girls, if he does, I want him executed. Not only do I want him executed, I want the morons who didn't lock him up or take the warning seriously enough, I want them in a court of law. And I think that's, again, the same thing with David Amess. Maybe they don't want to tell us, the British public, who let David and his family down. And if you see his daughter today, it'll be on all the news programs at 6, your heart will break for her. Your heart will completely break for her. I want border security. Here's a good story for you. This weekend, I went down the Boozer yesterday, Sunday lunchtime, with my mate Dave, my oldest mate, one of them, definitely. And there's a guy in there, and he's a nice guy. I don't really know him, and I won't say his name because I don't want to embarrass him. But I said, oh, Dave's just told me you were going to be in Spain. He said, don't mention it. I said, what's happened? They were meant to go to Benidorm yesterday, him and his missus and a load of friends. He was flying out to get there early to get the apartment right with his wife. and they were going to follow today. He got all through security at Birmingham Airport. Listen to this. He got to the final bit. They've got the cases all sorted. They've all gone off. They've left the luggage. And then the woman at the desk says, no, sorry, mate. Your passport's out of date. He says, you what? He says, no, it's not. Look at it. It's got 6 months left on it. Oh, no, for Spain. Spain, if you know anything about this, let me know, because it was news to me. Spain put a new thing in now where you've got to have at least 12 months, I think, left on your passport because of Brexit. Right? It's probably the Spanish being arsy because it's like the French, isn't it? They could try to cause problems. The Irish did the same, the Southern Irish, because they didn't want us to leave. So he couldn't go. They wouldn't let him fly. So he come back in the pub. My mate Dave took the mickey. They're all taking the mickey out of him, right? And we've got the football on. We're watching the football. And then somebody puts the Spanish football on. But the best thing was my mate Dave at half time. He went and asked the landlord and he puts on La Viva la España. Remember that? Oh, we're off to sunny Spain. The whole pub, this is British humour at its best. The whole pub started singing. Oh, we're off to sunny Spain. La Viva España. What a crack. What a great laugh. That's being British. That's being British. That's just, and the poor guy is going to try and get his passport. And I said, well, you can get it in a day. You just go to Peterborough and they'll do it. He says, no. He says, now, 1 day delivery is 3 days. Now, again, if you know anything about this, you can tell me. And the 3 day thing is you have to tell them 1 day, go the next day, and you don't get it till the next day. He was only going for 7 days. So he's buggered it up completely. Right, I've got to finish. David Mayton, if they can afford the fare for the rubber boats and they're reported to be chucking passports over the side, why not get a Ryanair flight with a return ticket and just disappear? No mobile phone, no hotel, no 3 meals a day. Yeah, get tougher. I agree with you on that. They throw their passports over the side so that you can't trace where they're from. John, I readily agree with you on the need for doctors, etc. But surely the doctors from India and Pakistan speak perfect English and should be welcome. Well, they don't. They don't speak. They won't always speak perfect English. They won't. That's just a fact. And why should they? You know, if they want to come and contribute, they can learn it as they go along. I think we forget that entering the country without a passport is a criminal act. I don't. I think that's wrong. Apply for asylum in the country you reside in. Well, that's okay, as long as the country isn't a fascist state that we've bombed back into the Stone Age and that you were part of the opposition. I'll point you to the fact you could be an Afghan interpreter who we left behind. They can't get out because the Taliban will kill them. So it's not always simple, Bonnie. Politicians want you to think it is. If you want to live in the USA, you have to be qualified employee, US citizens, and have private medical insurance, enough money to survive for a year. Surely that's the right way. I'm not racist one bit, John. What? And then she stopped. Bonnie, that's not what happens in America. If you or I want to go to America, that's how we do it. Yes, you're right. And I'd love to work in America. I would absolutely adore it. I'd love to live in America. It's the greatest country next to ours. I would. However, have you heard of a thing called the southern border? Have you heard about the wall? It's a beautiful wall. Have you heard about what Trump's trying to do? Many people who are getting into America aren't doing what you've just said. And the Americans have had their own problems. Admittedly, cut back now massively by the way that Trump and in particular J.D. Vance have addressed it. They've put more security on the borders, which is what we should do. And it's all I'm calling for. But don't make out that America's got it all sussed. They haven't. That's just the simple truth, the truth of it. And the problem we've got, although it shouldn't be such a problem for us, because as I started in this broadcast, we're an island. There's a thing called the Channel between us and France. These people are coming up through Europe, through sub-Saharan Africa, through Europe, and then to us. And a lot of them want to come to Britain. Why do they want to come here? A lot of them because English is their second language. And also they've got lots of relatives here. And they want to be within their community. Immigrants always do that. Go to New York. Go to the Italian Quarter. You know what I mean? Go to the Jewish Quarter. It just happens. Look in London. The Huguenots were in the East End. Then it became the Jews. Then it became, obviously, Muslims. A lot of Muslims, Pakistanis in there. The way it is. And they congregate where they feel comfortable. And that's fine. That's fine. The problem we've got in this country and in the West is that we've got loads of money and they haven't. And they want to come and improve themselves. But we can't take them all. So the fair way and the equitable way for everyone is to have a proper system of immigration, which means you can't just turn up in a boat. You will get sent back. You will get sent back. And that's what we've got to do. And that's what we're not doing. And it's not a party political point. All the parties have failed on it. And I think they fail on it because it's a way of having a bogeyman. And they can say, oh, the reason you haven't got anything, it's a bit like well, careful what I say, a bit like the church. I won't say which particular church, but like the church, you'll be great when you get to heaven. You'll have everything you want in the next life. That's a great way of trying to pacify you. And most people in the West have seen through that BS, haven't they? But there are some people who still think they're going to get 72 virgins. That's what you've got to change, that philosophy. And in a sense, that's what the governments, successive governments, do here. They use uncontrolled immigration as if it's this terrible threat. However, now some of it is coming true. We cannot have a position where people feel they can't go out at night. I've got daughters. I want them protected. Of course I do. But by the same token, I don't think everybody who gets off a boat's a rapist. But we need to know who they are. And that's where Yvette Cooper has failed. And that's where Sir Keir Starmer has failed. And Sir Keir Starmer, instead of thinking about, I'm going to go off to Washington so I can discuss how we protect the sovereign nature of the Ukraine, how about protecting our borders first? Well, that's just my thoughts. Thanks very much indeed for your questions. Peter says, I had 2 Indian dentists up here in Scotland. They told me they were leaving. The reason was it was too cold. Yeah, fair enough. Okay, I've had enough. I'll be back tomorrow. Hopefully no technical issues. Hope you enjoy it. Don't forget you can watch it on repeat. I've also got this AI thing now that dices it up so you can just listen to a quick minute burst or 2-minute burst. Don't forget the podcasts are there. They're on every major podcast platform. All of this I'm doing, and I hope you enjoy it. And, if you don't like it, like some people today have obviously taken offense because I won't accept racism, then tough. Change it's not me that needs to change, it's you. Because you're a racist. If some of the things expressed are racist, and you just, how would I put it? You damage yourself and your own argument if you fall into that trap. It's what the establishment want, because they can say, "Oh, look, that's something that means that Keir Starmer can say, look, far right thug." Well, then no, concerned citizen, worried about my future, my children's future, and da 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 da. And I understand the economic reasons why these people are coming. Anyway, it's up to you. No one's paying my wages, so I can say what I want. I'll be back tomorrow. Until then, if you've got kids, give them a kiss, give them a hug. Don't forget to tell them you love them. And how about buying me a coffee or joining my YouTube page, please? Just help us out. And I'll see you tomorrow. And now I'm going to try and see if I can turn this off. I couldn't turn it on earlier. Thanks a lot. See ya.